Hey friends, this is Worm here. Hey friends, sorry to interrupt this, but this is a long video and we talk about a lot of things in here. Um, Watch the whole video before you go to the comments and start making opinions on what I've said, because it's something I think that everybody really should hear before just making opinions on it. But yeah, anyways, enjoy the content. And we're gonna beat a dead horse again today. Continuing on yesterday's topic with the whole situation going on with Bungie right now, right? Because we got more information and I felt like it was important to talk about and share this information because I've been following media and there's a lot of things that people are saying, a lot of blame being shifted on certain areas, and we've kind of got some unconfirmed answers to these, but some more, I would say, believable answers to some of these. But yeah, I mean, let's start talking about it. So, of course, yesterday Bungie fired at the time, an undisclosed number of employees, right? Well, we now know how many it was. It was about 100 employees, or about 8% of Bungie's workforce. That is definitely not as big as I thought it was. I figured it would be a lot bigger. However, we do have to take into consideration that a large portion of those individuals were part of Destiny 2's team. Okay, and that's something we're going to talk about in this video, but I think we're going to talk about that more in a little bit later. But yeah, about 100 people lost their jobs at Destiny, and it's not looking good for Destiny. You know, yesterday we were talking about potentially holding out hope. You know, we talked about the good and the bad, and the good being, you know, we'll hold out hope. Maybe, you know, the delay will make it make an improved final shape launch. I don't know if that's going to be happening, because we got some information on more of the individuals who were actually let go, and Bungie fired or laid off, whatever you want to call it, laid off Michael Salvatore and Michael Sechrist, which are the two composers, along with Martin O'Donnell, sorry, who made all of Destiny's music, right? Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. These are the people that are responsible for, you know, all those tracks, you know, Killing Oryx soundtrack, the Volta Glass soundtrack, the Deep Stone Lullaby, which is everybody's favorite Destiny song, right? Like, they fired the composers, not just somebody who, like, oh, helped produce. Like, they're the ones who wrote that music, right? They didn't just help to create it. Like, obviously they helped to create it, but they wrote it. Like, that was their brainchild, so to speak. And Bungie fired them. Now, a lot of people on media were saying that it's all Sony's fault. Like, Bungie, of course, was bought out by Sony like a year ago, or maybe a little less than a year ago. I don't exactly remember when, but Bungie was bought out by Sony, and lots of people were saying, hey, this is all Sony's fault, right? And yesterday, we kind of talked about DMG's post on Twitter, and DMG, it didn't, based on what he said, it didn't sound like it was all Sony, right? It sounded like it was Bungie. But of course, Pete Hines, the president of Bungie, came out and said, you know, oh, we were hit with some tough news today, blah, 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 blah. But we have got more, I guess, inside information that these layoffs were 100% on Bungie. They were not a result of Sony anything. Like, these were 100% Bungie's call, right? So, you know, I know that there's a lot of y'all out there who believe that Bungie is a saint. They're a great company. You know, they brought us amazing games like Halo. Way back in the day, they brought us Marathon, you know, so if you're an older gamer, you probably played Marathon. And, you know, we loved that studio, right? But I think that's a thing a lot of people tend to do, is hold sentiment towards people and you know, things, you know, that pertain to people, like bands, music, actors / actresses. Like, people hold on to their golden days and they don't look at where they are currently. And guys, I'm here to tell you, stop imagining Bungie in their golden days. Bungie is not who they were 7 years ago. Bungie's not who they were 10 years ago. They're not who they were 30 years ago. Okay, Bungie has gone from what I would say is a game developer who cares about the player base, who wants to make a quality game, to a corporation. Okay, and they're making corporate calls, right? And it's really kind of unfortunate that it is that way, because I remember 2014 Destiny launched. I mean, we had Deej. Deej was on top of everything. Like, they were patching things, fixing things, adding things. Like, Bungie was on it. Right, they were on it. Of course, they were backed by Activision back then, and we're going to talk about the Activision thing in just a second, but, you know, they were on top of it. But we now know that the team that made Destiny 1 is not the team that made Destiny 2. Like they have gone in and replaced a bunch of the people who made Destiny 1 what am I trying to say? Removed people who made Destiny 1, and the people who made Destiny 2, the devs who made Destiny 2, are not the ones who made Destiny 1. Now, that's, of course, that's not to say that, you know, there's not still some people who worked on Destiny 1 at Bungie. Like, obviously there are, but this is, you know, we've got to stop pretending that Bungie is this saint of a company, because they're not. They're a corporation. Okay, they're as good or as bad as any other corporation, right? Their layoffs were motivated by money, nothing else, right? And like, it sucks that it is that way, but that's where we are. We can't blame Sony, right? And maybe Sony has a little bit to blame, right? Like maybe there's a little bit to blame, but Sony gave Bungie 3.6 or 7, however much money. They gave Bungie that much money, right? And now Bungie's firing all these people. Like, I think, what was it, 1.5 million of that was for employee retention. So Sony was actually like attempting the opposite. Like, they were trying to keep people at Bungie, and Bungie still ended up firing 100+ people. And from what I've seen on that list, it looks like a majority of those people were Destiny 2 developers, right? Well, that's, you know, saw that, but then we got a bit more information. I think it was Bloomberg. I don't have the articles pulled up. I read them earlier today, but I think it was Bloomberg posted an article about why these layoffs happen. And it is because Destiny 2 failed to meet its expected earnings amount, or whatever the term is. I don't really know the term. Its expected earning amounts by like 45%. Guys, I hate to say it, I think we have some part to blame. Everybody who's talking about, oh, don't buy stuff from the Eververse store, like, because, you know, the Eververse store is evil, and don't buy the event cards. Like, the people that did that, you know, Astrocross's microtransaction video, I think that probably had something to do with people losing their job at Bungie. Like Bungie missed its profit margin by 45%. That's a huge number. In business, that is a huge number. And that's the reason. So far, that's the reason that we've got why this massive layoff happened. Now, of course, is that 100% confirmed? I don't know. Like, this is not, this is in no way, shape, or form, nothing am I saying is confirmed here. But these, like, as more information is kind of trickling out through various sources, like, it's starting to paint a better picture. And I mean, if you think about the timeline here, like, Astrocross's microtransaction video came out not that long ago. We've seen a drop in players. You know, Lightfall was a smashing failure, you know? And now, of course, I think it still was one of the highest selling DLCs, but I think what ended up probably happening is a bunch of people bought it because they were excited about it. It turned out to be terrible, and people just stopped playing, right? And when people stop playing, Bungie starts losing money. And when Bungie starts losing money, they have to start cutting costs. And they unfortunately started cutting costs with their production team. Now, what does this mean for Destiny 2's future? It's pretty easy. I don't think Destiny 2's future is going to go anywhere, right? I think that, you know, obviously we're getting Final Shape in 2024. Now it's been pushed out to June. We have 3 episodes with 2 acts in each episode, if I'm not mistaken, lined up for this, you know, for the upcoming content. Currently, I don't know if those episodes are going to happen. I really don't. But I think that after those episodes are over, I think it's it. I mean, if you look at the what is it called? At the diagram, or the infographic or whatever that Bungie posted about those seasons, you know, and the content that's coming, you see in the background different enemy types. For episode 1 is the Vex. Episode 2, I think, was the Scorn. Episode 3 was the Hive, right? I think that those episodes were meant to close out any remaining stories so that the Bungie can be done with Destiny 2, right? The Cabal's storyline is closed. The Cabal, they became friends with the Guardians, end of story. The Fallen, same thing. The Fallen became friends with the Guardians, end of story, right? The enemy types, we have the Vex, who are kind of enigmatic, mysterious. We don't really know their motives. They're going to close the Vex storyline with episode 1. They're going to close the Scorn storyline with episode 2, and they're going to close the Hive storyline with episode 3, right? And, you know, I know that Taken exists, but Taken are kind of entangled in the Hive, right? Like, Taken don't fight the Hive, Hive don't fight Taken, versus the Elixni or the Fallen and the Scorn, they do fight each other, right? So I think that we're going to be seeing a closure to those, and after that, it's done. It's done, right? Like, they fired their music team. Like, that's a big deal. Like, and I know that probably not everybody that's watching this video is like all super into like music of Destiny 2 and stuff like that. And I get that, but like, all music composers sound different. Like, if they were to try to bring in a new composer, it's not going to sound the same. The music is going to sound, and not just not sound the same, it's going to be totally different than the music that we have now. And it's going to sound almost jarring. It's going to be, whoa, what is this? This is weird. This is definitely not the original creators of Destiny 2's music. But, you know, with that to me is what seals like the coffin, because music is a huge part of any game. Is a huge part of any game. Like, community managers, I hate saying it. Okay, please forgive me, Lord. Community managers aren't the most pivotal thing to a game's design, right? But music is. Music is a fundamental part of any game. Like I said, like, think about the first time you killed Oryx, right? The music when you killed Oryx, like, that right there was when I was like, whoa, this music is good, back in Destiny 1, right? Like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that music. I don't know if I can see it, but whoo, it's good music. The composers are now gone, so I don't see what Bungie's gonna do about this, you know, the music going forward. But you know, yeah, I don't know. This is, like I said, this is just a compilation of thoughts that I have. You know, I guess it's me trying to process what's going on, right? But yeah, so Bungie, you know, they lost like a 45% profit margin or whatever it was, and that's what led to the cuts. I think that we as players had something to do with that, because so many people, you know, Datto, don't buy Destiny 2 microtransactions. Hey, like, I hate to say this, but Destiny 2 microtransactions are what keeps the game alive, right? And also, I think it's also on Bungie too. Like, Bungie, you know, I get where they're going, where they're going with the game, they chock it full of microtransactions, and it does feel aggressive sometimes. Like, it does, event cards. You don't get an event card unless you pay $10 for it. That is ridiculous. But at the same time, now that what's happened has happened, we know why it was set up that way. We know why the Eververse store was pushed so hard, because that was all the money that Bungie was bringing in, right? Everybody that pre-orders, pre-ordered Lightfall, $100 times however many players. Let's say there's, I don't know how many players there are, actually. I don't know how many players bought Lightfall, but let's say it's, 500,000. 500,000 people spent $100. What is that? That's $50 million, right? That's $50 million. That's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, $50 million for a year for a major corporation like that, I don't think that's enough to keep them afloat, especially because you have people that are unwilling to take pay cuts. Like Pete Hines, over on Twitter, oh, we had a sad day. I guarantee you that Pete Hines did not take a pay cut. I guarantee you he didn't even offer. He didn't say, hey, why don't we cut my salary in half so that we can keep some of these people on board? I guarantee he didn't say it. Right? Like if I was in his position, I would have done that. I would say, hey, cut my salary into quarters, cut my salary so I'm making as much as a dev, but keep as many of these devs on board as we can, because this game is loved by the community. Well, I say it's loved by the community. I know it's loved by the community, but I think that the way Bungie's looking at it, based on the profits, it's not loved, right? Because they failed to meet their margin by like 45%, which is a lot. That's a lot of money. Okay, that means they lost a lot of money. They lost a lot of money. And of course, with business in the United States and, shareholders' money, blah, 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 like it does mean that layoffs are going to happen. And that's what happened, right? And so I think that players, we are partially to blame for that. All the people that were denouncing microtransactions, and I've said in multiple videos, I don't think microtransactions are that big of a deal, right? Like as long as they stay cosmetic only, then we're fine. But of course, Astacross in his video, which he broke down a lot more than just like microtransactions, Bungie has nickel and dimed us for years now, and we're finally catching on to it, and we've stopped doing it, and now we know why they were nickel and diming us, right? Because Bungie, I think that a lot of people think that Bungie just makes an exorbitant amount of money. This, what happened with this, this layoff shows us they're not making an exorbitant amount of money on Destiny 2, right? So I think this is Bungie probably saying, hey, we're cutting our losses with Destiny 2. Now, again, I don't know, maybe the music that Michael Salvatore and Michael Sechrist, I think that's how you say it. Michael Sechrist wrote Maybe they've already finished the final shape and the following episode's music. Maybe Bungie's just going to reuse it. But I think that after the final shape and after these episodes, and maybe even not after the episodes, maybe after final shape, it's done. I really think that it's done. And I think, again, it's because it's not making enough money. And it's sad that that's the world that we're living in. And again, old Bungie wouldn't have done this. But old Bungie is not current Bungie. The people that worked at old Bungie had nothing to do with current Bungie, right? It sucks. But earlier I mentioned Activision, you know, and what happened with Activision. Or Bungie used to be, you know, owned by, or not owned, but they used to be under Activision's wing for Destiny. It makes me wonder, had Bungie stayed under Activision's like wings, would Bungie now be a part of Microsoft, right? And would things have gone differently? I don't know. Like I don't know. I can't speak for it, but it's possible. You know, I mean, Microsoft, I don't know about y'all, but my opinion, Microsoft and so like Microsoft and Sony, they go head to head with each other. You know, they have releases that are, you know, for each side. Microsoft is the bigger of the company. Microsoft owns titles like Minecraft. Like Minecraft is a massive title. Okay, Minecraft is literally, I think, currently sits as the #1 selling video game in the world, right? But they've got other fantastic titles under their belts, and PlayStation has great titles too. But I think Microsoft takes the cake. And so if Bungie had stayed under Activision, Activision was absorbed by Microsoft, Microsoft would be Bungie's parent company. Would we see like Destiny 2 potentially being better? I don't know. I almost feel like, yeah, like where we are now, yeah, I feel like it's possible. And again, like I want to stress this because lots of people on forum posts and stuff like that were blaming Sony. This is not a Sony issue. Like whoever it was that leaked this information, this is a Bungie. This is 100% a Bungie issue, a Bungie call. Bungie was told that, hey, you will still have freedom of creativity over Destiny 2. Like Sony did not come in and say, yeah, we own you, so you're going to do everything our way now. No, like this was a call that was made by Bungie themselves. Sorry. Still got allergies out the wazoo, but this was a decision that was made by Bungie themselves. So don't try to scapegoat Sony, sorry. Don't try to scapegoat Sony for Bungie's mistakes. And I even think, like I said, I think that Pete Hines on Twitter, or on X, sorry, that's what he was trying to do. Whenever he was talking about, you know, oh, like it's a sad day, like we lost a bunch of people, really sad. You could have done something about it, I'm sure. You know, I'm sure there's probably a board of directors or something that, you know, you can't just completely override, but I'm sure your word has a lot to do with it, right? And Pete Hines, like if you cared about your people that much, maybe should have said something sooner, right? So I really don't think it is Sony at all. I think this is 100% on Bungie, and the fact that they're losing money on Destiny, or you know, they've lost a lot of money on Destiny. That's Bungie's call to say, hey, you know what? No, we ain't doing this anymore. Like if it's not bringing in money, it's been around for a decade. It's not bringing any more money. We're done with it, right? And it's really, really sad because I think the reason why it's not bringing in enough money is because Lightfall was such a flop. Like if they had done the same thing with Lightfall as they did with Witch Queen, pushed it out for 3 months, you know, and released it in a much better shape, I don't think we'd be where we are. Like I think that the sales for Lightfall would have been fantastic. It would have been well received, and that good reception would have kept players more engaged with the game for longer, which would have decreased that 45% down to, you know, much less. You know, because if it had been like maybe 20%, or if it had been broken even, right, we wouldn't have had anybody fired. And like I said, like mind you, this is specifically, it seems like Destiny 2 staff were the ones that were targeted for this, right? Like, I mean, look at Twitter, look at how many people that were fired that said they worked on Destiny 2 that were fired. 8% of people, about 100 people were fired. And 8% was not as many as I was thinking. I thought that Bungie laid off like 20% of their staff, which would have been crazy, right? But I thought, you know, in my madness that, oh, like they just fired 20% of their people. No, they didn't fire 20%. They fired only 8%, so less than 10%. But still, they seem to be mostly Destiny 2 developers. I think this is the end. I really do. I think that Destiny 2 is about to be no more. Unless some magic happens with us and we put in our money to show Bungie that we are happy with this. Because here's the next thing. I've seen so many posts calling for boycotts. Let's boycott it. You know, we don't agree with this. Let's boycott it, blah, blah, blah. No, boycotting is only going to drive them more into just dismantling Destiny as a franchise. That's what it's going to do. If you honestly, this, and I almost can't believe I'm saying this, but based on the data that we have and the fact that they failed to meet their profit margins, buying more into Destiny would probably help save the franchise. And that to me, like, I can't believe I'm saying that, right? Because I've always been, you know, anti having to spend X amount of money and stuff like that. But like, think about how many games have like monthly subscriptions and stuff. Bungie never did that. Maybe it's time that they implement a monthly subscription, $10 a month, right? $10 a month gets you access to, you know, the seasons and all this cool stuff. You know, you get a free, like, you know, 1,000 silver every month, you know, or something like that. Like, that could possibly be something that could have prevented this whole situation and could have saved Destiny. And like I said, like, we don't know. I don't know for a fact that Destiny 2 is going to die or anything like that, but it seems like that's where it's headed. If it's not making money, the reality is Bungie doesn't want it. If it's not going to make money, if it's not going to make Bungie money, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to work on it. They don't want to put effort into it. And that's something that players have to remember. Okay. And as bad as we feel for the people that got fired, for, you know, Hippie and Timon and, you know, Michael Salvatore and Michael Seacrest and stuff like that, like, as bad as we feel for them, everybody who said, no, I'm never buying anything in Destiny 2 for silver, like, I think that we have a little part to blame. The corporate wheel will turn on forever. There's nothing that's going to change that. Okay. The greedy people up at the top of Bungie, that's, you know, and maybe it's not even the greedy people at the top. Maybe it's literally just they've lost so much money on Destiny that they're struggling to scrape by. Like, they don't have the money to pay their employees anymore. And I would assume that's what it is, right? Like, they lost 45% on their profit margin was 45% under what it should have been. That means that they can't afford, like, at this rate, they can't afford to pay people to make Destiny 2 anymore. I mean, I hate saying, but maybe buying into it, buying microtransactions, even if it's just $10, a $10 silver purchase, maybe we can start to see a change. Maybe they'll rehire some of these people. Maybe if we as a community, we collectively say, hey, you know what? Let's all pitch in $10. How many of us play this game? Let me Google this right now while we're talking here. I know there's a ton of people that play Destiny 2. There's, you know, maybe if everybody just put $10 in, we're about to see how much that would be. How many Destiny 2 players? Let's just do are there. Okay, and I know that this is gonna have inactive players and stuff, but just for the sake here, okay, 44 million people, right? 44 million people play Destiny 2. If everybody put in $10, and again, I know that that's like, if asking people to put in money to something is like, oh, it's the end of the world, you know, because blah blah blah. Like, I'm the same way, you know. I'm like, oh, $10, I don't know about that, but 44 million times $10 each. Oh, sorry, $10 each. Oh, let me pull this up here so y'all can see it. Where is it? I'm sorry. I should have come more prepared for this. Okay, where is my calculator? Right there. That's $440 million. $440 million, I think, could definitely pull Destiny 2 out of the hole it's in. But, you know, people, they don't want to spend money on Eververse, and people like Datto say, oh, you know, don't spend money on Eververse. Or, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say Datto said don't spend money on Eververse, but he's been very clear that he's never spent $1 on Eververse, right? He's never spent $1 of his own money on Eververse. That could be why we are where we are, right? I don't know. We've talked for almost 24 minutes. It's going to be 24 minutes in a second, but these are, like I said, like, I'm still trying to process what's happened. And as I sit here and talk about it, like, I'm starting to realize, and I hope that you're starting to realize as well, that it's not Sony. Sony's the scapegoat, right? Sony's the one, everybody's saying, oh, it's Sony, like, they're greedy, blah, 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 whatever. That's the reason why. It's not Sony. It was Bungie. It was the fact that Bungie didn't make enough money on Destiny 2. That's what led to the layoffs. That's what, in my opinion, is going to lead to the end of Destiny 2. But I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions on this. Like, we've talked about a lot of stuff, and if you're still watching, I do appreciate you watching all the way to the end, because I know that rant videos, they're easy to get you know, to a point where you don't really want to listen to them anymore, I guess. But it's a conversation that needs to be had. It's a reality that we need to face as players. You know, you can smack the dislike button all you want, but that doesn't make it not true. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments. Like, do you think Bungie could have potentially saved Destiny 2 based not based on, but you know, if we'd spent more, do you think that do you still believe it was Sony? I want to hear your thoughts on everything that's been going on. And of course, remember, everything we've talked about is technically still speculation. We don't have any official releases from Bungie just yet. I think that if they don't do one, which they haven't done, like, Bungie has a tendency to just ignore it, ignore stuff. They do, right? But hopefully we will get a statement from Bungie soon, and hopefully they're honest with us. That's the key. We've talked about it before. We want honesty. I want Bungie to come out and say, hey, you know what? The reason why we laid off all these people is because it's not meeting profit margins. Because if they tell players that, players are going to go out and buy silver. I know I'm going to buy silver, right? You know, I buy silver in $50 bundles at a time, which I know that sounds crazy to some of y'all. That's $50 of my own money. Like, I don't make any money doing this, right? I know everybody's like, oh, YouTuber, you make money. No, I don't make any money doing this. I make no freaking money making YouTube content. I make barely any money from streams. Like, I get like, what is it, 1 cent per view, which is like 30 cents a month, maybe. Like, I don't make money doing this. I spend $50 of my own money on silver at a time because, you know, and now I know why. I'm glad I did, because I know that my $50, like, if I hadn't spent that $50, you know, who knows what would have happened? Who knows if one more person would have been laid off? Because businesses are that specific. Like they boil it down to the dollars and cents. You know, if we make less than, say, $100 million in X amount of time, we got to fire this many people. And if we're under that 100 million, then somebody else gets fired. And then blah, blah, blah. And so, like, that $150 purchase that I made on silver could have saved somebody's career, right? I like to think of it that way, but I don't know. I just, it's sad what's happened to our favorite game. And there's a lot of factors, I think, that are playing into it. But yeah, sorry. Let's move on to the outro here. Like I said, leave your comments, thoughts or leave your thoughts in the comments. I read all y'all's comments. I know I don't respond as much. You know, it's difficult because a lot of y'all have a lot of passion for this game, just like me. You leave long comments, and at some point we're gonna have to do a live stream where we invite, you know, one-on-ones to talk about some things in Destiny 2. But yeah, tell me your thoughts in the comments. Of course, like the video. I would love if somebody at Bungie could see this video, you know, somebody who still works there, and present it to whoever's in charge. We're asking for honesty. That's what we want. We want honesty. Look, never mind. Like the video, share it with your friends, discuss it in the community, discuss it on forums, discuss everything that we talked about to no end. And do me a favor, watch the videos you see on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye for now, guys.